Man, that was dramatic at the end there, wasn't it? I don't think Survivor editing gets me every time. Every time. It's like all right, well I'm waiting for Mike to get on here. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Holy moly. Holy moly. Okay. So, I guess they just showed it. Kendra, Kelly, and Katura would have voted for Jake. Bruce and Jake didn't have a vote. So it would have been D, Julie, Emily, Austin, and Drew all voted for Kelly, if I got that right. Hopefully I got that right. Um Man, Survivor editing, they just they just give you just enough to trick you, don't they? This has to be, I don't know if it will be the most viewed episode of the season. It's for sure got to be the highest rated. I mean, everybody watching that auction, we felt like we were there. You know what I mean? Like that is the most Survivor thing Survivor's done in a long time. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that Survivor auction. I can't wait for Mike to get on here because just so you guys know, he's the biggest fan of Survivor history. He'll for sure know why they stopped doing the Survivor auctions. Because truthfully, I don't remember off the top of my head. What's up, Julie? I'm really not sure. Mike said link or something. Mike, if you go to your here, let me see. All right. Um, Man, that was wild. That was so wild. So we knew going into this there was going to be a Survivor auction. How many of you actually predicted how that was going to go down? I I I heard everybody predicting things from it'll be a double elimination to a no elimination, all because of this auction. I mean, everybody was just all over the board with this. Um, I should have known though with the very opening scene. If you guys remember the opening scene of this episode, it was they were talking about Bruce's idol, which completely led us down a rabbit hole that we were not getting out of because it was like we were trained to think something was going to happen to Bruce, and of course he wins immunity. And and I said they got me again. Those stupid Survivor editors, they get me every time. But this auction, this had I don't understand why they didn't do an advantage. That's the one thing I'm a little. I assume that's why they stopped doing Survivor auctions because of the advantage aspect of it. I really don't know for sure. I can't wait to get Mike on here because he'll know for sure. But no advantages. I was shocked by that. I didn't see that coming. I definitely didn't see that coming. Um, let me double check my text again here. Just um, man, Kelly going home was definitely. I mean, who was watching that and thought like it hurt your heart a little bit because you could tell how bad it hurt her. That's got to be one of the hardest parts about going on the show is because obviously you know going into it you're going to have to deceive people, you're going to have to break promises, you're going to have to lie. Normally, not everyone does that, but when it happens to you, it's just different. You know what I mean? It just felt very personal. You know what I mean? I think she thought she was in a tighter alliance than what she was ultimately. It was what it came down to. But for the five people that made it happen, Dee, Julie, Emily, Austin, and Drew, that was brilliant because now, just like they set up, now let's see if Survivor editing tricked us again because they've done a perfect job of setting up the next episode being a split the vote between, like Drew said, splitting the votes between, I think Drew said it, between Jake and Bruce. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they'll both win them next time. I kind of missed the very ending. He said 3 people are going to lose their vote. Did I hear that correctly? At the next um, challenge, I think I got that right. All right, I'm gonna try to resend Mike this link because I don't think. Um, what's up, Sherry? Yeah. So while I'm waiting on Mike here, the picture that I used to promote this live stream with him is he said is his favorite picture of all time. What's up, Sebastian? He Mike had a Survivor themed wedding, and Lex from Survivor actually officiated it, and that's what the picture is from. And it's a beautiful picture. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon Donlin, who was voted out second on this season, he was actually at. I think he was part of Mike's wedding, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Speaking of which, I did talk to Brandon the other day. Um, he said he trained. I have a question. When will you be on TikTok live again? Sebastian, I don't get on TikTok live very often just because I'm not a big fan of TikTok. Do you remember there was a service called Vine and they went under? I am guessing that the way that these politicians are talking, if you watch the last political debate, it seems like they're almost all in agreement to get rid of um, the uh, the TikTok app because it's you can get here's Mike perfect. Dun, 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 dun. Bam, ba-dum, ba-dum. What? You came prepared with the buff and everything. I love it.
Hi, yeah, the other buffs are in the other room, but I've got the buffs ready.
How many buffs do you have at this point?
Uh, I don't know. It duplicates over 100.
Now that's the buff you're wearing. Is that the new tribe, the Wakadaka or whatever however it's pronounced?
Wakadaka, yeah.
Did you see the secret scene that I posted it the other day of how they came up with the tribe name?
I haven't watched it, but it's something local, right? What is it?
I love how I posted the video, I edited the video, and now I completely drew a blank myself.
Is it a
I
duck or something else?
It's well, I remember in the video Emily was talking crap about everybody because they were just they kind of were talking crap to her to everybody that was working on this flag and the name. I can't even remember who. Gosh, I'd have to rewatch it. But anyway, you're on top of it. Are there going to be any more tribe buffs the rest of this season? Will there be any
Well, there
reason?
wouldn't be new tribes, so I would not imagine a new buff that I
Yeah.
could imagine. So I think we're down to 4, the 3 and the merge.
Oh, goodness great. Okay, so everybody, this is Mike. Hold on one second. Sebastian said, "I'm a big fan of you, Greg. I love watching you from that show, Extreme Cheapskates." Thanks, Sebastian. We can talk more about Extreme Cheapskates later. That was a crazy journey for sure. So this is Mike. Mike is my longest no. He's definitely my best Survivor fan. Maybe not longest tenured, but not by much. And you've always been so cool, so supportive. You're an endless resource of information. Like if I had to pick someone to go against you, I wouldn't. I would just pick 2 of you. Like, there's no one. Have you ever met anyone that has more Survivor knowledge than you? Be humble now.
Overall, probably not just overall knowledge. There's people that know like the challenge names better and some of the newer merged tribe names, but my cumulative survivor knowledge has to be right up there with anybody.
It's amazing. It's literally amazing. So next time, anytime you guys get a chance to go to like a Survivor viewing party, usually there's a few contestants there. Go do it. It's a neat experience to see and interact with people that were on the show and live in the moment. And I've gotten to do a couple of those with Mike. And usually it's like Johnny Fairplay or somebody will be doing like some sort of a random like trivia. Mike gets it right every time to the point where he doesn't even answer because he has like he feels guilty like getting it right so much. But Yeah, you're absolutely insanely amazing. Your knowledge is second to none. And I hope they give you a chance to be on the show at some point. And I feel like you probably, if you were like me, you had to feel when Brandon got cast. Now he was in your wedding, right, Brandon Donlin? Or he was
Yeah,
at your wedding?
Brandon was in our Survivor themed wedding. He and Ryan Weiss were some of our ushers. So
Yeah. But when you saw him get cast, that had to give you hope. Like, wow, they're casting fans instead of just this bullcrap fans versus favorite, blah, 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 and they're not
well,
really
five
fans.
people from the wedding were cast. They should just make it an even six and wrap it up. So I was at the
Hey,
wedding too. So
I was just gonna say, wait a minute, I wasn't at your wedding, but you were in a wedding that I officiated, and that was cool. There were
yeah,
two
being an
weddings.
usher with Roger Bingham in a wedding, than having a Survivor be an usher and having it's so surreal, the Survivor memories. I was running through some stuff on my drive home. I was pretending I was at final casting, just pretending to talk to probes for like a 40-minute car ride, and just wouldn't stop talking. So
Well, do you remember there was a challenge that Cochran? He was on there so long. He was like, "How often do you get to talk?" And he just kept talking to Jeff Probst because he knew he had his undivided attention for I don't know an hour. I think he was on a poll or something like that.
I think that was Christian in season 37. He did that and wore out what's his face. Yeah,
Unbelievable. See,
Christian
guys, I told you.
Habuki.
I
But
told you guys.
Cochran could do the same thing if Cochran did a similar challenge. So
Never ends with you, I swear. So let's get into this episode. They open the scene, and this is Mike. I don't know if Survivor editing ever gets you, but I swear to you, they make a fool out of me. They get me every time. Sure enough, they open the scene with Bruce reliving how he found that idol. Now, if you're gonna do that, obviously that's gonna come into play in the episode, right? Wrong. They got me again. Sure enough. Sure enough. So kudos to Survivor editing. You got me.
that was
Um,
a red herring. I think they pulled the eyeballs off that huge red herring they showed you at the beginning of the episode. So
Okay, what kind of let's just ask, what kind of fish has eyes that big?
I put in one of the group chats. I have no idea. That might have been a shark. That might have been a giant squid. They killed two of them to get the eyeballs. I don't know what that is.
I bought, I don't think it's a shark. I bought for my cat's birthday, I bought her a shark and yeah, it was like 6 foot long and the eyes were like maybe like that. So I'm like a whale? Like what I don't know what that was awesome. That was
Whatever
absolutely awesome.
SCG wanted to kill in Fiji, they were allowed to kill and take two eyes out of something. So
So Jake says that he doesn't want to in the opening again in the very opening scene, he says he doesn't want to follow the herd, but then he asks Bruce to tell him what to do. And it's like that should have been my first inkling that there's trouble in paradise. Even though it turned out not to be so much. Maybe he can recover in this next episode. But I thought the foreshadowing of Jake lying to Julie right to her face was just outstanding. I mean, that was great editing. And the way she goes, "Oh, wait until you see your name wrote down." I was like, "Oh, that burned a little." He's gonna. There's
yeah.
revenge. I mean, we talk about the Katura and Bruce thing coming to a head. Julie and Jake might just have their own moment after that. Um,
Oh yeah, and he saw his name a couple times, but not enough. So yeah, it was. And I love Katura's later on calling out Jake as an attorney when she's not admitted she's an attorney. So that's also
oh, I
added
didn't catch
interest.
that. You're right. You're right.
Katura's
Now
also
there.
an attorney, so I hope Jake susses her out and says objection, or counselor. I think you're an attorney too. That'd be fun.
How many attorneys were on this season? I thought there was a few of them.
I think just Jake and Katsura, but I can check. I didn't have that note there. I'm not sure. I don't
I
think any other attorneys.
I thought there was 3 attorneys on the show this season. I could be wrong. Um, was it no? Oh, maybe there. No, was it somebody from the yellow? Wasn't? Oh no, Emily Stocks, Sophia. No, Sean knows. Sean was a principal. Okay, well maybe there was just two. Um, what? Okay, so we got to get in the Survivor auction. That was a highlight of the episode. No doubt, everybody's been waiting for this. They said it's been since 2015, which you already knew that ahead of time. Um, why did they
I didn't check
stop
my notes,
doing?
so I had to look that up. I wasn't. I knew there were a fair amount of auctions. I wasn't sure the exact number until I did some research, but I was shocked. It was. I thought it would be 30 that killed it because of the animosity. But even Tyler Fredrickson posted today that he actually had his $500 too. They didn't show it, which I thought was interesting.
So why did they stop doing auctions for the last 8 years?
Well, you remember how heated it got between Dan Foley and Mike Holloway when Mike didn't give away his advantage or his money for the advantage, like he said, for his letter, and he got the advantage. That really pissed off the players, and I guess it made production aware enough that they're not going to do it, and they didn't do it for 8 years, and now they brought it back. It was because of Mike versus Dan and that tension when he pissed off
Wow.
everybody in Sierra. He made Sierra mad too, and Rodney, and
I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I do you remember we met Mike and Sierra at my dance studio? Well, you probably met them before
yep.
that, but that's where I had met both of them. The one lady from my dance studio is still to this day in love with Mike. I mean, but he kind of fell off. He doesn't do anything, right? Like he doesn't do
Mike
events or
was
anything.
involved, and he was a little out of sorts. Didn't go to Winners at War. I thought that was a interesting casting choice that they made with that, just because he was a little having too much fun at the time, and they didn't think he'd be good. But I think any of the winners that didn't make Winners at War, I think could almost do a second Winners at War. They could almost do that, but I don't think
You,
they will.
well, do you think season 50 is a potential winners at war type thing?
It could be. I think they're gonna be returning players back besides Bruce at some point. I know they want to minimize it in the new era, but I think they're gonna have some kind of 50 would be a good reason to bring it back and maybe go out with a bang or keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I keep telling everybody we're not going to get any more legends or anyone like that until they start bringing previous players back. Because you can't be, a legend and survivor and only played one time. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. So I don't know. I think Marianne comes back. I think Jonathan comes back from the new era. I told Brandon Donlin, I was messaging him. I said, look, if you get buff and you flip the script, from how they made you look on this last season, I could totally see that happening. If he comes out there jacked, he took like a couple MMA fights or just completely, flips the script, that would make for an awesome story.
His new
Uh,
application video, he's just climbing up ropes on boats. That's all he does for 3 minutes straight. He's just doing that fireman stuff. Yeah,
can you
maybe.
imagine that? Change his name to like Jack and the Beanstalk or something, but I don't know. That would be awesome for sure. Um, the way that people act when they see a boat pull up, like it blows my mind because the boat pulls up because they're getting ready to set up the challenge, and I'm like, what? Why do I don't know why they act so surprised? I mean, I guess if you're how many times does a boat pull up in 14 days? Probably not often, but
Probably only for if there's going to be a swap or something. There's no real other reason because they get transported by boats or other means, but that kind of boat without producers,
that's what I
just three
was.
dudes on a boat with a bench, that made them wonder. That's probably why they're like something's about to go down.
See, I was thinking that like there would be actually more votes just because how do those people get on and off the different islands? By boat, I assume. But you're probably right. You can tell a difference between a production boat and somebody that looks like a stranded fisherman. Or
It's probably more of a fast, speedboat with like camera. Well, probably camera and sound people after what happened in Island of Idols, but somebody around a producer to grab them, or maybe even more like a pontoon boat versus that thing that came up. Like, what is this thing? And then there were the benches, and I'm like, are they going to are they going to do the auction here? And then when they showed the format, I was like, it was a great idea, and I think we're going to try to implement it in our live game potentially. It was just really cool.
that, yeah. So okay, so before we get more into this, the auction, talk more about your live game since you brought it up, and so everybody out there in Survivor Land.
Sure. For anyone listening, I've been a part of it. Started as the Durham Warrior Survival Challenge, and that was created by John Vitea and Bob Crowley in Maine, and that ran for 5 seasons. And then it moved to Macomb, Illinois, and then we've had 5 more seasons. I played in season 9, and we're going to be casting for season 11 starting in January. So make a tape, fill out an application, please, especially women and women of color. We have a lot of guys that are 18 to 27 apply. You can apply still, but we definitely want to see more ladies apply and persons of color. So
Nice. It's funny you said that between 18 and 28 because if you look at this season, almost everyone is 28 years old with the exception of like Bruce and Julie. It's like, and they're not even that old, and they're the old people. I feel like the old person now just watching it because it's like, I don't know. I,
there
I
was
hope
the
they.
Big Brother season a couple of years ago that the oldest player, she was 33, and I was like, my God, that's just nuts. The oldest player is 33.
Yeah, we're aging out, right? Right before our eyes. So yeah, so we'll post more about the survival challenge. You have to call it survival challenge, presumably because of copyrights.
Well, yeah, we don't want to get sued, but producers, Jeff knows about our game, and Mark Burnett and the guy who does the challenges knows about our game. But we call it survival challenge because it's a different thing too. It's more compressed. It's 5 days, 24 people usually. So
How many people do you vote out per day?
it could fluctuate between 7 to I think 11 people went one time in a
Oh
in a
my
single
god,
day.
that's like
Yeah.
every hour on the hour you're voting someone.
You gotta be ready to vote. So
Yeah,
hopefully you don't go to tribal if you're lucky. So
yeah. Now, when you played, what season or what? How long? How far did you make it before you were voted out?
I was the fourth boot. I survived the night tribal, and our tribe won another challenge, and I went after that. So I was the fourth boot, but my body was ready because I would have been a medevac at some point because I
Oh
was
my
just
god.
having some trouble. It was a rough thing to sleep in the woods in the pouring rain for 2 days, and then
Yeah.
we did probably 12 or 15 challenges, I think.
And now you're in the casting aspect of it, so it's kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
full
back in
circle.
production and casting. I prefer to put people through misery, not live through misery. So
I hear you. So they start the challenge, and he says there's 40 tubes of cash. Now they did not say that the tubes had different amounts, but I'm curious to see if somebody can screenshot, or if there's anybody listening right now that knows this. Was anybody able to see the full thing to see if all the tubes were found? Because I don't know how many of the tubes, was it
I didn't do
timed?
that.
Like,
I just wrote down what everyone's total was. I guess you could do the math, but you wouldn't even necessarily know the highs and lows. But it looked like Austin might add five, and I think everyone else had 3 or 4. I think, and there's 10 people, so if Bruce had one and Austin had one extra, that would be about four a person,
4 times
ballpark,
10,
3 to 4. Yeah.
so 40, that'd be 4 times 10. Well, somebody needed to find 8 or more because of Bruce's
Well, yeah,
lazy
because
butt.
we had $900 and Austin had 700, so I bet maybe they had five, and then somebody had three, and Bruce had the one. So you got to take Bruce's other three he could have gotten and give them maybe one to D and one to Austin, and somebody else has another one. Maybe Kelly, because she had about 700, and then everyone else maybe had four. Would be the math, a guesstimate math.
Was it timed? Because I couldn't tell. It didn't say like a lapsed time or anything. It didn't say that they were all found, and I was having a hard time
I
judging.
would guess they were all found because they stopped. I don't think they set a time limit. So that the math. What's the I didn't even tally the math here. I've got the totals. I guess I could. It was 700, 900, 500, 520, 480, 420, 80, 340, 700, and 360. I don't know what that adds up to, but
Well, but they said they were all different numbers though.
well, yeah, but it'd be interesting to know what the total amount of money was. Then you might know. I don't
You
know
could
what you would necessarily know, but
I guess you could divide it by I don't know 40 and kind of
optimally
get it.
what each player could have received, but it is randomized. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
we
do that
know.
kind of
Well,
math.
well, we know that one of them had. What was Bruce's? His one, $80,
Bruce was 80, and then D had 900, so it ranged from 80 to 900.
and D found what, 5 of them?
I think she might have had. Well, to have 900, I bet she had to possibly have at least 4 or 5 of those containers.
So they
I
could have
know. I
ranged
thought
anywhere
Austin had
from,
5 because Austin was back the fastest.
yeah, yeah. So they could have ranged anywhere from $80 to 500. Nah, probably not that high. Maybe like two something.
I'd say maybe 100, 120, maybe 140 or 60, maybe.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. That's probably a good guess. Bruce taking his time though. It's like that had to infuriate everyone. You know what I mean? Like, how safe does he think he is in every aspect of this game that you can just play that lazy, or at least pretend? We even heard D screaming at him in the woods, and it wasn't like they were hard to find. He's walking past them. I always love the editing when they show when you walk right past an
yeah,
item.
it's like right here, right in front of your face.
And of course, they get the best sound bites. I can't find anything anywhere, and it's literally right in front of you. Um, that was poetic
Yeah,
justice,
now
though.
people will know if they do this kind of auction again to Maybe you want to play Bruce's strategy. I mean, he
Ooh.
did have the right move because you could have $1,500, but if you're not spending it, you're gonna get screwed.
Mm.
So
So it was the least amount of money lost their vote, right? Or no, the most amount of money left lost their vote,
the
right?
most left, you lost your vote, but then you didn't know when the auction ended because of the randomized chip pull that Probst did. So
Yeah. That part was kind of like, I was a little bit iffy on that part, just because I
I
wanted it
think
to keep going.
they should have shown us and maybe not shown the players. Maybe they didn't want us to know either. I think if the audience had known, it would have been maybe more compelling, maybe less. I can see both reasons to not show us either.
I didn't even think of that because yeah, it was like then it'd be like they're letting us in on the joke. If I think if they would have had a more dramatic reaction from who was the person that last landed on? It was Bruce, right? Yeah. He
Well, yeah, Bruce ended up getting stuck because Kelly was able to buy that last thing.
okay, so I think I bet you if I had to guess from an editing standpoint, Bruce's reaction was probably because he's like this all the time, right? He's not really here. He's not Kendra, where he's like this and this.
Mhm.
He's kind of like this. I bet you if it would have been Kendra instead of Bruce last, and her reaction was one of those big ones, they might have let us in on it. The editing might have shown us like,
Maybe, yeah, so we could ride along with Drew Barrymore, as I call her. So
you know what? Now that I've heard that, I can't unsee it. But prior to that, I didn't see it, so I thought that was kind of funny.
I heard it. I didn't see it. I heard it.
See, I didn't
He
hear it.
also
I
has
saw it.
alarmingly developed armpit hair in 15 days. I'm like, that's insanity. So,
I There's two of them are like D's like that too. I noticed. I'm like,
but
I'm
Kelly must have waxed because Kelly is she's pit hair free, but Kendra looks like a Sasquatch is running around in Fiji. So
so here's Mike. Here's what we're gonna have to do after this. We're both after we're done going live tonight. We're both gonna have to shave our armpits, and we're gonna have to time how long it takes to grow back because she must have gone out there already having armpit hair because it was way too long for somebody that would have just shaved. I don't know, a
either
day
that
or
or
two.
everyone else waxed or lasered or something, but she didn't wax the laser. There's nothing happening there. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Um. No advantages. Let's talk about that. So there were no advantages at the Survivor auction. And I mean, you can make the argument that food is an advantage because certainly somebody that got carbs from pizza versus someone that got eyeballs that didn't eat them. Why do you think they didn't do an advantage this time? Because Austin, they knew one
Because
person was going
when
to have a lot more money.
I think they didn't want to give an advantage because it was so contentious. The reason the auction they think ended was Kagayan and Worlds of no one really bid and it was all going for the advantage. So if you take out the advantage, that makes people bid for everything else. I'm surprised they didn't do a lower level advantage like more something like the shower, which they did the mouthwash, but they used to always do either a shower or a bath and the love letters. I think I'm surprised that wasn't a part of it, but the advantage I can see why they cut.
Yeah, that was the one part I was a little bummed about. But if somebody got more money, well, then they earned more money. Like Austin was running,
Yeah.
he found more. So maybe he should be entitled to get an advantage. But what advantage could they have done outside of something drastic, an immunity idol, a steal a vote, something like? Could the advantage be like in a future challenge? Like if you were going to do an advantage that wasn't like life altering, but enough to get people to bid on it, what do you think your advantage would have been?
Maybe something luxurious for an individual, something maybe like a hammock or a sleeping bag or something nice like that. Maybe not a challenge related incentive. Maybe
Okay.
your own fresh water that you don't have to boil or do anything special to, or like Gatorade or maybe some sponsored prize. They don't haven't done that forever, but
You know what I really wanted to see? And it probably would have had to been left uncovered. I want to see a car. I realized a car you probably have to have a sponsor because you can't just have a no-name car and then, all that kind
mhm.
of crap. But or $10,000. You know what I mean? You know how if you ever watch Mr. Beast videos, every challenge he does, he gives somebody an out for 10,000 or 100,000. Is there another idol or advantage out there Jake was looking? Sherry, we're going to talk about that because I can't figure this out how many idols are out there or if there is or isn't, but he was
It
certainly
hasn't been
looking.
used, so they don't usually add new ones if old ones haven't been pulled. So maybe he was just looking to look, or to think maybe it existed, but they usually don't cycle them back until they've been utilized, typically.
Yeah. Um, so okay, so back to the Mr. Beast idea here. So Mr. Beast, when it gets down to a certain amount of people in his challenges, he'll offer him 10,000 or 100,000. I would love, 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 even if it's not at the Survivor auction, just at the next competition. Because you know how sometimes they'll do like non-elimination episodes, like on Amazing Race and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I would love to see Jeff get everybody standing in front of him like they're about to compete for something, and then Jeff say, "Okay, um, $1,000 if somebody will go home right now." And I think most people would probably say no. Then I think he'd say $5,000, and that's going to get people's attention because somebody's on the bottom. Somebody knows that
Yeah.
they might be close to quitting anyway, right? Then so I think nobody would agree to that. Then 10,000. Now this is where it gets interesting because the pay. Do you know what the pay is per contestant on the show now?
First boot used to be 2,400, so I don't know what would be equivalent to 10,000. Maybe fifth or sixth, maybe. I know it's like 100 grand for second, 85 for third, and like 65 for fourth. So 10 would be down maybe around 8 or 9 place, maybe,
When
or maybe a different place.
when we were at the live finale, I was actually on the bus when everybody was given their checks for the show, and everyone was opening them up right in front of me. And I'm pretty sure everyone's check was either 10,000 or like 12,500, and that was literally everybody got that.
Oh, that was the finale money. They used to get paid for the finale 10K. So
Really?
that was the finale money. So the first boot might have gotten 12.5
Oh,
because the
okay.
first boot was like 2,400. But yeah, the finale used to pay 10 grand. I think that's one of the reasons why the finale doesn't exist formally anymore. Is they don't. I don't know if they have to give them the money they used to give them by doing the let's eat pizza and drink wine in Fiji. That saves them a couple $100,000.
Yeah. I think a more compelling quit, unlike the episodes earlier this season, would be if someone was offered $100,000. You're still a quitter, right? But
Yeah.
people can relate with that. There are a lot of people that would be like, screw the show, or I think 100 grand. I mean, we just saw four people sit out the challenge to get a bag of rice. I guarantee you, if you've got four people willing to sit out to get a bag of rice, at least one of those people would take 10, 20 grand, maybe.
I'd go to the jury maybe, but I wouldn't go as long as it was in the. I could still go to the jury. I might take a buyout, but I wouldn't do it to totally leave the game.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So earlier on in the game, not so much, but if you've already made the jury, well, unless they say, but you won't be on the jury. Here's 100 grand, but you got to leave now. You're not on the jury or nothing. You know what I mean?
I'd
Like,
rather have a say in the vote out, even if I knew I lost personally. But that's just the way I'm wired.
yeah, oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Um, so Kendra gets the beer. Kelly got fries. Emily got the wine. It looked like a charcuterie
The
board or
charcuterie
something.
board, I think. Yeah.
And did you see when she won that, she buried her head and face in the sand. I've never seen it. Have you ever seen anybody bury their head in the sand like that?
No, just in strategic ways, but not for the not the auction. Yeah.
That was like crazy dramatic. And then she starts twerking. I mean, holy crap. And I mean, this was what, day 13 or 14? What day was it?
Yeah, she was pretty excited. Yeah, something like that. And I was shocked that Dee spent $900 on a chocolate shake when there's
Crazy.
food coming afterwards. But Big Toe D needed a chocolate shake, so
Big Toe D. Oh
her
god.
toe
That
was running
that
out of
that
energy, so she had to fill it up. So
hey, that big toe won her a challenge, remember? Um, Poor Katura. What I loved about this, though, well, first of all, it was a little anticlimactic because she called it. She knew she was going to get something crappy. She could just sense it. And I don't know what did they show what was in the other one? She could have picked the other one. Like he gave her the option of
yeah, they were
choosing.
both closed, and she didn't she stuck with the first one and not the second one, and then yeah,
Do we know what was in the
screaming.
second one by chance? Just based on the cover? Like,
Uh,
was that one possibly the
that
chocolate
ended up
cake
being
later?
Drew's candy, right? Wasn't that Drew's candy? Yeah, Drew bid on the candy for 520. So the fish eyes were bad. She could have gotten candy if she had switched because that was the sixth item.
Yeah. So the
So
fisheye being just the I honestly thought that the reason that they quit, thank you, Julie, it was candy. I honestly thought that the reason they stopped doing these survivor auctions and food challenges was because of people's dietary, issues and stuff like that. And you see them making a more conscious effort to be more diverse and all that stuff. And I don't know who on the tribe is vegetarian or vegan or anything like that, but I assumed that they would no longer do some of these challenges because I did maybe it was like almost like gender bias, like it's like, well, not everybody can do this or that. I honestly thought that was why. But we saw her take two little licks, make some faces, put it away, and I was good with that. I was fine with that. Because it wasn't a competition where you needed somebody on your team to go to the next round if you didn't eat something. When was
yeah.
the last time they did something like that?
Oh, a gross food challenge? I'd have to check notes on that. It's had to be a while though. I can't think the last time it had happened. Maybe World maybe, or like Blood versus Water maybe. I don't remember. It was a staple for the first few seasons, and it's been sporadic. It's usually been a blender. I know Samoa had a blender challenge,
Oh
but it's not
God,
happened very recently.
yeah. Do you think that that's something they'll bring back, or is that kind of like what I was alluding to, like being a dietary issue? And
I think it's more of that they've done it so far, and it's Fiji, so you can only blend so many fish, and it's just not that dynamic anymore. And
yeah,
there's other reality shows that do gross better than Survivor, not better, but have done it more recently. Survivor did a bunch of crazy different stuff, and now it's just blending fish. That's not that cool, I don't think. If
yeah.
they're not going to change location, they can't really change that.
Yeah. I wonder if they could do that like the food challenges, but make it like a trick. So have you seen there's a site called Goldbelly. I highly recommend it to anybody. You can get pistachio flavored Snickers bars from Ireland. You can get like all these really rare and different foods. Like I live in Cincinnati like you, and so Skyline's big here. You can find Skyline on there. You can get Emo's Pizza, which is something you can only find in St. Louis, that kind of stuff. So they have a bucket of chicken, but the chicken is actually ice cream. So my thought was, if they did like an eating challenge or even a Survivor auction like earlier, they could make the food to look like something it's not. So it could look like eyeballs. And honestly, those eyeballs, I thought it was cake. I thought that it was like they were trying to trick them. I
That
would.
was no cake. Austin found out that was not a cake.
So yeah, and let's just and I have okay. So during the Survivor auction, have you ever seen someone put an item back up for auction? Because
Uh,
that's how Austin
Other
ended up.
gross stuff, but they didn't have to pay. I don't think James had to pay to eat the bad stew. I think he just got to eat it then. But Austin was trying to get rid of that money. I wouldn't have paid $100 for those big ass eyes. No way.
He's such a I don't see a lot of strategy necessarily coming from Austin. I think Drew complements him well in that regard, but I do see someone that has potential to go far because even though physically he looks like somebody that could win challenges, and sure he thought it was donuts, yeah. Um, I don't see him as being the physical threat that tends to get voted out based on how he looks. He seems like he's got an innocent, nice enough demeanor that he's kind of flying under the radar despite looking physically imposing compared to some of the other people on the tribe, I guess you could say.
I think he's playing a pretty savvy social game. They're just not showing it to us yet. But he's got two idols now that are fully charged. I think he's going to be really tough down the road.
They didn't even mention that in the last, at least not this episode, maybe even the last couple. I wish from an editing standpoint at the bottom, it would say they've done that in the past where you'll see
They
like
did it in the
what.
past seasons. They've shown that. But yeah, with Jay going out, it got stronger, and with Kelly going out, now that's probably why it was down for that vote because now he has two idols, I believe, or one idol and something else. So
Hold on. Kelly had part of the amulet that Austin had, right?
yeah, because Jay went out, now Kelly's out. Now that amulet is now another idol.
Whoa.
So a
I
final eight often has two idols that can only be played through the final five, I think.
This is why you're the best, Mike. I did not even think about that until just now. I totally forgot she had the amulet. I wish editing would have put under her name has amulet, and then under Austin's name, amulet now upgraded. Next episode,
Half amulet, now full amulet. So,
but next episode they have to bring that up. How could they not? That is a big. I mean, the
well, the
average
people that
viewer
can
might not
connect
have.
the dots should know Drew should be, you know, he's safe until the final six. So you would think Austin should
Wow,
be. Plus, he wins an
that's
immunity or two. He could be pretty deep in the game. That's why I think Austin's got a good shot.
I forgot all about that. This makes so much sense now. That's probably why they. But they never said that's why they were targeting Kelly. But that does make sense. Um, dang, that makes sense. What? So hold on. So Kelly's amulet, what was it upgraded to? A steal a vote or
I can't
walkout?
remember what it went from, but the second level, but
Hey
there
Sherry,
it
what was the second level? Drew has the advantage, but Sherry, what was the second level that her her amulet was upgraded to? Because it's worth more than something, but it wasn't quite a full idol. Because she could have
something
maybe
maybe steal a vote. It went to steal a vote or something. It was weaponized, and now it's fully weaponized. I think.
hold on. If it was a steal a vote, do the math. It was 5 versus 3. She could have stole a vote, and that she could have at least tied it.
Well,
You
I'm
know,
saying that's one that it could have been. I can't remember what it really was.
but if it
When
was
Jay
that,
left, we all had one level thing, and then when Jay left, it got stronger. Then with Kelly going, it became an idol, I believe. I think
whoo,
some people could probably correct that, but
Austin, they better show him doing the happy dance on this next episode because that was, man, I can't even believe I didn't catch that. I wonder.
he's,
I
he's not. He doesn't have a lot of like credentials, but he doesn't have very much people like wanting to come for him either. So I think he's in a safe spot, relatively safe. He
he's
likes
so
Emily
safe.
and he likes Drew, so
He's in such a safe spot that it almost makes you think he's going home next episode, just because it's like, but nobody but Drew knows about all the advantages, right?
I think only he does.
Man, at some point, they can't take each other to the final, can they? I mean, I wouldn't want to. If I
Drew's
was either
not
of
going
them,
to want to do that. Drew's going to want to get rid of him earlier, so he probably will blindside him at some point, I would guess.
ooh, that's gonna be
If
brutal.
Boston can't get Drew out first.
Yeah. Well, I loved that. So he after the fisheye and Austin ends up winning. I love how Katura's face, and then they faded it to black on the editing for the commercial break. Oh, that was priceless. And let's face it, these 90-minute episodes. That's why we got so much of this. If this was an hour episode, we would not have gotten all this content from this Survivor auction. We just wouldn't have. I don't know what they would have cut out, but we would not have gotten all that.
They would
Um,
have to design it totally differently and present it differently. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I just heard, I'm sure you heard this too, that now the next season, starting in February, they're going to do 2 2-hour episodes, and then they'll be back to 90 minutes again, just like this.
Oh,
Uh,
good. Yeah, cool.
yeah,
Probably a
yeah,
double vote first episode.
yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I love the longer. As far as I'm concerned, give me more Star Wars. Make them 3 hours. I don't care. Like I love that. Yeah, and the double votes, I'm fine with that too. Just I don't know. It's weird when I read these comments and people are complaining about the episodes being too long. It's like, if you're a fan, is there such a thing as too long? If you go to
People
a
are saying there's too
concert,
much talking. It's better than hunting for idols all the time. That's the stupid, unimportant part of the game.
yeah. Well, and they don't show anybody really hunting. Has anybody caught a fish other than Austin this season? I mean, they haven't. But let's face it,
I
Survivor's
don't
not
think
about
so.
surviving.
It's just, they did the reward. The Hawaiian sling's just not that common.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Julie, Jake's mouth wide open because he was blindsided. Even though Jake didn't go home tonight, he was definitely blindsided. I think he was almost, well, he wasn't quite as blindsided as when Drew got that candy, but we were all, as a viewer, I couldn't tell. I thought it's candy, but it looks like there was other crap in there. And it's like, I,
I think
I
it
don't,
was like gummy worms and some of the stuff that's not going to melt in the Fijian heat, but the chocolate was on top. So Drew's right though. All that sugar, he's going to be crapping that out so fast. That's why he was kind of upset to just get sugar, but it's going to give him a buzz, but then it's going to run right out. That's why he probably jumped it to make, for the rice I love the rice negotiation where that's not a negotiation. That's stabbing a bag of rice and people freaking out. But
that was amazing. I'll get to that on the challenge part of this. But did you
Yeah.
hear when Drew got the candy, he was kind of underwhelmed by it, and he even said to Jeff, he
Mhm.
said, "Is there any negotiating?" And I thought, "Oh, I like it." And then Jeff said, "No."
No, you
He's
can go
got that.
negotiate with the hole you're gonna dig when you eat your candy because you're gonna be it's brown now and it's gonna be brown later. So yeah.
Even though the candy thing, there was no negotiating on that. Do you think that if Drew or somebody else would have said, "Hey, I'll give you my shot in the dark for your cake," or something like that, do you think Jeff would have allowed that?
They didn't except for the splitting of the cake, so you can't share the food or the money because they don't want you to share the advantages. I think that's the only reason because you can't share an advantage. That's why they stopped that at Cook Islands.
See, I
So
would
I
I would
missed
be
it because that was
trying.
fun watching the best auction moment ever is Ethan and Big Tom with the breakfast because the Jewish people don't eat ham line that Tom screaming at Ethan. You don't get that when you can't split food. So
Oh man, the cultural sensitivities that we will never get in Survivor ever again.
you
But
won't
yeah.
get a big Virginia farmer with a Jewish soccer player probably ever again. So and no one like Big Tom yelling he's a Jew, he can't eat ham. Like that won't happen. So
Yeah. Julie got the toothbrush. We talked about that. Jake got to choose Julie and Bruce for the cake. Let me just tell you, I thought him choosing Julie to try to get back in her good graces was brilliant. I thought that was one of the first smart things he's done this entire game. I don't know whether or not it'll work, but
I thought he was
being
trying to screw her because she had just brushed her teeth and gotten her mouth clean, and then he wanted to eat chocolate cake.
I
I
did
thought it
I
was
did
more of an FU move, not a you're awesome move.
I did not interpret it like that. I mean, maybe that he was being cynical, but I don't I sure hope not, man. That would be funny if it turns out that's why he really did that. Oh my
And
god.
Bruce ate about as much cake as Couture ate of her fisheye. He was just like,
What yeah, what the heck? I mean, first of all, does he not like cake? He took 2 little bites.
he
Like
might
and
not like sweets, but he probably doesn't want to have diarrhea for like 18 hours. That's probably why he did that.
but you know
'Cause
what? If that was the case and he said that, I would have liked for editing to tell us that because then we would be like, "Oh, well, that actually makes sense." Instead, now we're just looking at him. I mean, they're building him kind of like a lunatic to some degree, and that would maybe
Mhm.
that would add to it. I
They're
don't
just
know.
out adding to his lunatic storyline. But yeah, every time they've had anything Hardy, there's been some problems for the players later. That's my second favorite Survivor auction moment is from Australia when Roger got his food and they were washing in the creek and he's like, "Hey, there's a hole in my leaf, Keith," because they were talking about washing themselves up. And Roger made one of my favorite jokes ever on the show.
That's a great line. That's a great line.
But he kept
Um,
laughing and he told the joke one more time so the camera could make sure they got him smirking and laughing. So I'm like, nicely done, Roger.
nice,
You're
nice.
talking about wiping your butt on the when the show was the number one show in the country, beating Friends by some guy wiping his butt in Australia in a creek. So
Definitely an iconic moment. Roger's iconic. What a good guy too. I really like him. Um, so I had a moment this episode where I realized that there's one player that is a much bigger fan than what I think editing led us to believe. They started, and I'm just gonna say it, it's Emily, and I'll tell you why in a second. The first episode, they made her out to be the most hated, awful villain, blah, blah, blah. The second episode, or third, it was one of those. We fall in love with her. She's amazing. And ever since then, it's like, wow, we'll get little tidbits of what she's actually
he threw
doing.
that line out. I know what you're gonna say. I'll let you say it, but she dropped a line from a mid range season. So
Yeah. And here it is. There's going to be a margarita. That tells me that she knows this game way more than just someone that, well, if I'm not going to win, just remember, if I'm not going to win, just vote me out first. She said
yeah,
that, but she is a student of this game. She knows this game inside and out because you would not know randomly from 8 years ago, because she didn't know going into this there was going to be a survivor auction. But so for her
yeah.
to pull that rabbit out of the hat, she knew based on watching every season, she's for sure a super fan at this point, that there's going to be a margarita underneath one of those. And she called it. And I was like, that was the moment that I thought, okay, she's winning this game. She's so
Is
far
she
ahead
the
of her.
same one that mentioned the Sophie and Coach? Was that her or somebody else? Did you catch that line? She
Say that again.
mentioned she was also rooting out how the women's alliance wasn't going to work, and she referred to somebody as Sophie and Coach from South Pacific.
Oh, I
I
missed
think that
that.
was Emily. I think that was Emily too, around the same timetable, which was great because that's the finale we were Brandon Hance's family at, but that was from South Pacific, and she dropped that line, which made me know she was a bigger fan than I thought too.
Wow, wow. I mean, look, I way to go casting. You know what I mean, and editing.
Yeah.
That was a. I didn't realize that that was the season we were supposed to go to. Hmm. That what season was that again that we were supposed to go to?
South Pacific. Oh no, we were supposed to go to Caramoan, but South Pacific was the reference we made because she was talking about Sophie and Coach. That if they let Kelly go further, she'd be the Sophie, and they need to get rid of the coach, which was I think Bruce maybe if they could have, but then Bruce won immunity.
Yeah. And let me just tell you, the fact that Bruce lost his vote after and after going and finding the least amount of money and being so lackadaisical about it was the most poetic justice. And that was the second clue in this episode that I should have been like, oh yeah, he's not going home. You know, even though I was convinced after seeing that, it's like, oh man, like once again, Survivor editing, they got me. They get me
Yeah.
every time. So after that, we they closed the challenge. We all were feeling good. We're on a high. This is what Survivor's all about. They have to bring that back next season because there's no way that that wasn't a huge success. And they're sitting by the well. The game's back on, and Drew says to Katura, as a sign of trust, it's your call. And Katura, who did she say? Bruce, right?
Oh,
When they were
Bruce. Yeah,
saying,
she said that to Drew. Yeah.
and she says, "Should we touch or something?" And I'm thinking, okay, that way to build an alliance there. I mean, I thought that was pretty effective, but they shook on it, and as a sign of trust, now Katura, even though she was, how did Katura vote? Katura voted for. Did she vote Jake or Kelly? She voted Jake. Yeah. So Katura, that sign of trust, there's no way she's working with them. Kendra and Kelly and Katura, they are on the outs. It's just, and same with Jake too. I get the feeling that Dee, Julie, Emily, Austin, and Drew are going to systematically eliminate the next four based on that interaction, and obviously how the votes played out. Um, but then they get to the challenge, and instantly, who were the first two people that stepped up to not play so that they could get rice? Was it Katura?
Emily and Dee were the first two, then Drew, then Couture, I believe. I think Emily and Dee were the first two, and then Drew was third, and then I think Couture was the one that got him to save the rice. I think.
And those were the same four that were standing around the water well, if I'm not mistaken, as a sign of trust. So they've already built this thing up as if, wow, we've almost got like a new alliance here. But one of the coolest things I've seen is Jeff jabbing that knife in that bag almost like what is that called? An hourglass. I mean, that was awesome. That was
He's
so
like, I'll
cool.
help you make your decision. Like, is he going to negotiate? He just stabs the rice. I'm like, okay, that's one way to determine what's going to happen. So
I don't think we've ever seen them do that. But when that was going on, did they lose enough rice to not get them through the rest of the season?
they lost a fair amount. It'd probably be about half as much as they need, depending on who's eating and how much rice. But it's going to be a fair amount.
What happens if they just ran out altogether? I mean, I've seen in previous seasons
Well, they
they'll.
don't have rice, so they would just be eating whatever they can find. They don't have a rice allocation currently. That's why they were excited because they don't have food.
I
They
did
just
not.
whatever they can forage and fruit and if they can catch a fish, but they don't have much food around.
So they've just been. Hold on a minute. So for the last 14 days, they haven't been eating anything. They haven't had any
Just
rice.
fruit and stuff and whatever they can catch, and if there's a reward or something, but not from production.
Oh wow.
They
I
haven't given
thought.
food from very many recent seasons at all. Just whatever you can forage.
Wow. Okay. Do you think, because you can only grow so much on an island, do you think that their production is putting like an excess amount of coconuts in a certain area, or Like they bring in bamboo, obviously, so they don't cut down all the forest. But do you think they do that with food too?
Food's probably scarce because they've been in Fiji since season uh 33. So
So they have to be giving them something,
10
right?
seasons, they just flip around on the different islands, so they got to be low on food.
Hmm.
Unless they go to a new island that has, hey, the pineapple island, but it's pretty sparse.
Yeah. The challenge earlier, is that the same challenge they've done in the past? I wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, they've done something similar to that where you're holding you're holding either your some portion of your weight or you're leaning against gravity itself, so it's all proportion about your size. So they've done something similar.
Hmm. What body type do you think? I assume petite.
A
Uh,
smaller, lean person's probably the best, or a female that just has not much weight. That's why Julie got pretty far, but her strength wasn't good. I was surprised. If D had been in there, I think D would have been pretty competitive for Emily, just because she's so slender and probably pretty light, but some strength. A big
yeah.
dude's gonna. That's why Jake was the heaviest one, probably there at the time. Probably Sifu in the cast. Austin was probably pretty heavy himself with his muscle mass. So, or somebody like
Actually,
Drew could have. If Drew could have been there, I think he would have gone a long time because like Spencer's done well in these before too, and skinnier people.
yeah. So the one thing I noticed on there, now I didn't know that they were going to get down to 0 knots, but I noticed there were 4 knots. And so one thing I picked up on, and I don't know if anybody else did, is generally speaking, we all have a dominant hand. Like I'm right-handed, so I'm stronger on my right hand than my left. So if you can start on either hand, and you know that it's 4 different rungs, then you would probably start off with right, left, right, left. No, you would start off with your weak hand first, so left, right, left, right. So that way you would end on your dominant hand.
Did they
And
make him switch hands? I don't remember that. They made him switch, or
yeah, yeah, they actually, well, they didn't make them switch hands, but sometimes they did. And actually, I picked up on something else. I'll get to in a second on that. Um, Julie was not using the knot as leverage. So now, if you think about it, you've got a knot at the end of your hand. You're using that like almost as leverage. She was at the top toward the other knot, so she didn't have anything really to help grip the back of
hmm.
her hand, right? So I started thinking, I was like, now wait a minute. It might have actually been an advantage because if you're gripping it down here, you have an advantage of you've got that knot to kind of hold your hand tight. But if you grip it up here,
Was
theoretically,
that
that
Julie? You
pole.
mean was that Julie? Because Emily was out. Emily sat, didn't she?
Did I say Emily? I'm sorry, I meant
Yeah.
Julie.
So sorry, just Julie. Maybe that's the
Yeah,
older lady. Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry, I meant Julie.
I'm
So
just
if
making sure wrote it down right. So.
yeah, so if Julie, I'm going to try to demonstrate this with my hands a little bit better. So if you've got a rope and there's a knot at the end of it and you put your hand and the knot is right here, that gives you a little something extra, to keep it from falling out of your hand. But Julie had hers up here with the other knot. Now that means she doesn't have anything down here to kind of grip on, but theoretically the rope is now shorter, whereas it'd be longer if you're holding it down here. So if you've got this pole that's leaning like this, and now it's going to be leaning a little bit further, the further you go down the rope, the closer you bring it, I assume the less weight. So maybe I don't, I mean, it
That
was only
makes
about a
sense
foot.
physically. Yeah, that makes some sense. But she's also losing the support from the knot too, because you can't really get the support pulling below it.
Ex-
So.
exactly, and that was my thing. But just like the pole challenge, how you slide down it further and further, and you don't want to, like they did last week. That
Hmm.
rope gripping it could have, I don't know. I mean, until you got to the bottom, maybe it could have given you maybe an extra little something there. But um, the way that she was using that leverage, I thought was awesome. The other thing I noticed her doing more than everyone else. Eventually, everyone else did it too, is she had her hand on her hip, her other hand was on her hip, trying to create a little bit of leverage. Some of the guys I thought were like they were just trying to tough it out, I guess. Um Austin, the way that was the way he gripped that final thing where there was no knot on it, he had it kind of looped around his hand. And I thought he was going to win when I saw that for sure. But if you notice that very last, hold on, Julie said lost her concentration by looking over at Bruce the whole time. Yeah, she was definitely. You could tell she was feeling it toward the end. But she if you notice at the very end when I think there was like four people left, all of them. Now I don't know who on the tribe is left-handed or right-handed, but you can assume most people are right-handed in life. So there's a good statistic that most people were probably right-handed, if not all of them. All of them were using their left hand to grip, except Bruce on the very final part of it. So I don't think strategically he meant to grip it right, but that might have been why he won because he was on his dominant hand on the very last rung, and everyone else was on their left hand, assuming that they were all left-handed. And
And
so,
he's shorter, leaner, and pretty muscular, so he might have had the optimal body type and size because he's probably about 5'6" or 7", maybe, and
oh,
is
is he
pretty
that
ripped.
short?
Yeah, I've got pictures with him. He's shorter than I thought he would see in season 44, for
Huh.
sure.
That's interesting. Well, his ego is about 6 or 7 foot tall, according to casting. Or the editing, the way they make him look.
I think he's
Um,
just a character because he was extremely charismatic. He was way more energetic than I thought from what we saw when I met him too. So I think he just has a really positive personality, but it could get over quick if you're there with him on an island.
Yeah. Of course, Bruce wins, and then editing got me again. I just shook my head. I said, "Of course he would win," because now he's not getting
I
voted
was a
out.
little shocked. I need to actually message Jake because I thought that was insane.
What's that?
Him pulling through. I'm gonna message Jake tonight saying, "Way to go, dude, pulling through on that vote." That was just insanity. I was hoping that that would happen. I like Kelly as a player, so I wish somebody else would have gone instead of her. But I thought it was a great episode ending.
Yeah. Well, but so before we get to the end, though, there was we it said that Bruce lost his vote and immunity, and I was literally one of the questions I wrote down to ask you is. Has anyone ever gone to tribal council with no vote and no immunity? And Jeff actually answered that question for us at that tribal council. So did you know that though, going into it, that he was the
I
only
thought that
player?
was the case, but yeah, it's a very rare scenario for that to happen like that. So yeah, usually if you've made him like Brandon, he lost his vote and then he didn't have immunity because there wasn't an immunity option pre merge. So yeah, it's a pretty rare occurrence if it's never happened, but it'll probably happen again now.
Yeah, yeah. And then Jake, I love at the water well again. He wanted someone else to say a name first. I'm surprised that I never really thought about that. You should never be the one to say someone's name first because you're just putting a target on your own back. Because at least if someone else says another name, you can say, "Well, they said a name first, so I had to say something."
Yeah.
But I think he read the tea leaves. Like he read them like a book, clearly because he ended up playing his shot in the dark. But Kelly, I did not think should have suggested that Jake take a shot in the dark. Like, why would she say that to him? Like, she actually suggested it to him at the water well, and I'm thinking, why would you even put that bug in his head? Like, was she
He
doing
was
some?
aware of it as an option. I feel bad that Jake did it. I think by doing that, that forced the blind side of Kelly, but he could have said, "Yeah, I'm just going to take my shot in the dark." And when they came up to it, that would have been even a baller move to be like, actually, I don't think I need to do this. And then to get the 3 votes and her to get the rest, that would have been even more of a resume builder. So
Do you think? Okay, so now he used his shot in the dark. He doesn't get one the rest of the season.
he's done. That was his one shot. So
But can Bruce give him his shot in the dark?
I don't know if he can give him a shot in the dark, but he can give him the idol.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to use the idol for him. That's what I wasn't sure about. So Bruce went along with the Kelly vote and still didn't give his idol. So at least he gave him the vote, but he didn't give
Well,
him the
well, well,
idol. So.
well Bruce didn't go along with the Kelly vote because he didn't have a vote.
Oh yeah, touche. So maybe Bruce didn't do that either. So yeah, so
Bruce
he
didn't
didn't,
do
and
any.
Kendra didn't, and Julie didn't, and somebody else. I didn't watch the final few
Um,
seconds there.
so I did. So the Jake votes were Kendra, Kelly, and Katura, the three Ks. So
The
basically, you've got
KKK Alliance. All right.
yeah. Can you imagine if they put that on TV? Whoa, you want to talk about getting canceled? Holy moly! Um, the line of the show though was when those and actually Sherry or Julie, one of you kind of alluded to it earlier. when Jake's jaw dropped when he saw, I think it was the second Kelly vote, and he goes, "Wow, people are playing Survivor."
Well, then
Bec-
that was a bad tactical play. Then he got a little too excited. I think when he survived, that could have rubbed the women that are left, or Kendra and Katura, a little wrong. But he was like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Relax, bro. Just
he,
relax."
but he has to know he's on the chopping block. You know what I mean? Like he had to go back to tribal council. Just sorry, Julie. Sorry,
Well, they
sorry.
have the votes now. Then they can pivot back to Bruce. And the only really it's Couture and Bruce aren't going to work together with Kendra,
I
and it's
can't
only
wait to
two of
see.
them. So
Yeah, yeah. D, Julie, Emily, Austin, and Drew. They've got. They all don't know about each other's advantages, but I feel like that's the perfect final five. I mean, my prediction in the next, I guess, 4 episodes are Jake, Kendra, Kelly, Katura. That female alliance. Now that was a red herring by the editing. That I wasn't falling for that at all.
it's
The
very
female.
seldom that a women's alliance, even the Black Widow Brigade, the Women in One World, it's pretty rare for a women's alliance to hold at all. So
Yeah, yeah, I wasn't buying that at all. But you know, do you think Jake, Kendra, Kelly, and Katura could potentially, and now Bruce, since he'll have his vote back, do you think they could potentially? Well, sorry, Kelly's voted out. Do you think they could potentially form an alliance between those four? I mean, the problem is you got four
I
on.
think they're gonna be so mad at each other that they won't. I think Katura still hates Bruce. It's this weird one-sided hatred because Bruce is just like whatever with Katura. I think I think Katura and Kendra probably goes sooner than later, and then it's gonna be like a sausage fest possibly.
So Katura is on an island of her own because remember, Drew saying, as a sign of our trust, it's your call, Katura, and then completely burns that, after they shook on it
Yeah,
or touched on it and everything. So she has no Reba connections. Her Bello connections are dwindling fast, and she doesn't like half of she doesn't even like Bruce to begin with. So it's like Katura, she's someone that, like, if you got the numbers, try to bring her with you because she doesn't have anyone else. It's almost like if the Reba tribe goes to her, she has to work with them. She doesn't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like, I
yeah.
I just I don't see, based on this episode, who do you think is going home next, and who do you think is going to win the game?
I would bet Kendra or Katura go home next, and I'm still pulling for Austin. I think he's got the best shot. So
Well, statistically, with all the advantages, he's definitely got the best shot.
he's got the advantages and no enemies. Not much of a resume right now, but
That's
he
true.
also doesn't have people that hate him either. I think he's likable. He's played smart. And there's only so many Asian dudes that have won. I think he could play that card at the finals if he says something about that. Only what Yule and is it just Yule maybe?
Yeah, yeah. Julie's pulling for D. D's had a good game, and she's playing too. I don't, but okay.
I'm
But let
waiting
me
for
say,
the foot challenge and Deacon demolish it with her that stacking of blocks and she just flings her big toes out and wins in like 15 seconds.
what a weird thing that was. Um, I see Austin finally going on an immunity run, maybe to get himself in the final three. He has all these advantages, doesn't need anything, and then I'm gonna be watching the final three, and I'm gonna be going, "Oh, this is so obvious that Austin's gonna win," and then somehow production is gonna pull a Gabler on me, and then like somebody like Gabler that you would Bruce is gonna win basically,
Bruce
like
will
some.
win from worst to first.
Seriously, I mean, but the best story has to be Emily so far. I mean, she's been at like what every tribal council except for one or two, something like that.
Yeah, Emily's really turned around to be the last Lulu standing. It's just pretty impressive from all the exit interviews. If Hannah doesn't quit, she's out first episode, and now she's in the final eight, poised to make some moves because she's with Drew and Austin. So
Yeah,
I think
my
Emily's got a
prediction.
good shot.
Yeah, I think Emily. And have you heard of this thing called Survivor Edgic? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, where you can predict the type of player and you can predict how they're going to do. I'm not very good at addressing who's what, but I've been familiar with Edgic for a long time. So
I have not been familiar with Edgic. That's all new to me. But if I had to guess, based on just camera time and what I perceive what they almost like what they want us to see, I still
Mhm.
think that favors Emily. I feel like she's gotten a
She's gonna
good.
be in the finals, I'm pretty sure. The final episode is my take, and probably her versus Bruce. That could be a storyline to the duration.
Yeah, Bruce. Good God, how are they ever going to get rid of him? It's like I don't, and he seems oblivious. I don't think he knows that like how close he was to going home. It seems like
He doesn't know it, and I think he'll successfully play his idol, and then after that, he'll be like fifth or sixth probably.
fifth or sixth. So we've talked about this episode. We talked about our predictions. Give me your thoughts here on if something happens to Jeff Probst, he quits, doesn't want to do it anymore, blah blah blah.
Show's over.
You think the show's over?
The show ends when Jeff wants to stop. I don't think anyone
Wow.
else will host or do the show.
Wow. I love asking people that question because it just ranges all over the board. So you think no more Survivor if Jeff's gone. That's your final thought on that?
I'm pretty sure it would just end because I feel like it should end because he's the only constant in the show. The days have changed. Voting people out isn't necessarily the ender with Redemption Island type scenarios. Jeff's the only constant, and if
So
he's gone, I really think the show should be done when he wants to stop.
wow, that's a bold statement and prediction. So okay, so give me this then. When do you think can this make it 100 seasons? Jeff would be about 90.
It's not going to go to 100 seasons. My prediction would be I've always thought possibly 50 or 60, something even and around maybe 75 is not too horribly unreasonable, I don't think. Because 75 would be, what would that be? That'd be like 18 more years.
Oh
Maybe
my God,
65? I don't
how,
know.
how old is Jeff Probst?
Jeff's over 60, I think.
There's no way he's gonna be doing this into his 70s. There's no way. I mean, Bob Barker did, right?
Yeah, he's pretty fit, so I think he could. We'll see, but I would say he'll end on some even number, maybe like some bringing former players back. 50 is a clean thing. That's 25 years, but we'll see what they do.
Whew. Man,
I'll
that's
go win
crazy.
49 and then hopefully get on season 50. We'll see. So,
I love it. All right, before we get off here, anything you want to plug or promote, or talk or anything like that?
um, no, I already kind of put a plug in for Survival Challenge. That's going on, and then I'll be out in LA for the finale, meeting the cast. So I can't wait to formally meet these other 15 and hopefully some people from seasons 41 to 44 or 41 to 43 and some other randos to show up. So we'll see.
Nice, nice. All right, Mike, you're the man. You have an endless amount of knowledge. I appreciate your time, especially because I know your beautiful wife is probably in the background, like, Mike, get in here. You've been
She
on
went
there an hour.
upstairs and turned off the Amazing Race, so she's upstairs, so she doesn't hear me yell. I'm pretty loud on podcasts, so she's upstairs.
Well, go watch Amazing Race with her. Tell her I said hi. Thank you so much for doing this. I can't wait to see you. I'll see you. I believe what Fair Play and Matt are doing an event, a live.
Down at Give Kids the World or down in Florida.
No, 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 no. They're doing a they're doing another live viewing party here. I think in well, it'd have to be soon.
I'll have to check. It wasn't on my radar, but we'll see. Maybe
When I get off here, I'll send you the information because I thought unless I mixed up the dates, I thought they're doing another viewing party somewhere coming up here.
I
And
might be getting ready to head to Florida if it's the first one in December, the first Wednesday. So
gotcha. Well, hopefully I'll see you then. If not, please come back on here and do this again with me sometime. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for always being so supportive and so knowledgeable. And I hope one day I get to see you on the show. And if not you, then definitely me.
we can go out there together and dominate everybody. So
We should start strategizing now. What are we thinking of? Jeez, oh, Pete, we're wasting all this time when we could be, figuring out what order, the pecking order. Well,
Katura first. No, I don't know. Whatever we need to do. So
hey, as long as I can bring my cat with me, little buddy, you want to come? That's a
we'll
no.
see. You got your own ESA on Survivor 50. So yeah,
She's my emotional support cat. I'll be the first person to bring an animal on the show.
I'm not bringing my cat. He won't provide me emotional support. So
Well, maybe some protein, right?
I don't know if I'd eat my cat. He's been sick for about 6 months, so.
Oh no. Oh goodness. All right, Mike,
But
you're
I'll
the
catch
man.
you
Thanks
later,
so
man.
much.
Thanks.
Yep, I'll see you soon.
All right.